Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to talk about UFC Austin, Beneil Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan. And my friends, it's going down this Saturday live at the Moody Center in Austin, Texas. You got two, I want to say top five guys. For some reason, Arman Tsarukyan is not in the top five currently, which I think is crazy. I think he's pretty damn clear as a top five guy. But bottom line, two of the most elite lightweights on the planet are about to do battle. Title implications on the line. I mean, a win here, and it's either title shot or one fight away from title shot. A loss here sets you back tremendously. So incredible fight. Plus, I mean, this card, the co-main event, you got the UFC's hitman Bobby Green taking on the tarantula Jalin Turner. We got Hobby Font, Rob Font, welcoming Deiveson Figueiredo to the bantamweight division. Kelvin Gastelum dropping a 70s for the first time in a long time. So I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped. Let's just not even beat around the bush, not that we ever do, and let's get right down to business, because in this main event, we got Beneil Dariush. He's 22, 5-1, taking on Arman Tsarukyan, who is 20-3. And currently, they got it Arman Tsarukyan minus 310. The comeback on Beneil Dariush is plus 260. So lots of interesting tidbits with this fight. First of all, I know I want to just get into, this narrative about how, the longer the fight goes, that's where it kind of favors Arman Tsarukyan, because Beneil has maybe slowed down in fights or this or that. But I want to tell y'all something. Look, does Benny gas sometimes? Yeah, because he goes balls to the wall and the guy is a killer. Do not let Benny's nice guy persona fool you. Benny is a bona fide killer. But the reason I wanted to bring that up was because y'all know that Beneil is undefeated when fights go to decision. The only kind of, close call was that draw he had with Evan Dunham, where he almost killed Dunham in round one, kind of, blew the load a little bit and then lost the next two. But besides that, man, that's not even a loss. That's a draw. Beneil has never lost a fight that's gone the distance. Pretty interesting, right? Every time Beneil loses, he gets finished. So that's an interesting caveat. Could this be the first time that Beneil loses a decision? That's something to ponder. But how they match up, I mean, just a fantastic fight. Beneil is truly an established vet at this point. I was at this guy's UFC debut in 2014 against Charlie Brenneman in Gwinnett, Georgia, and it was the first fight of the night. So, these casuals don't show up for the first fight of the night. They don't show up to the main card. So it was just me and my friends, like two other people there, and we hear the crack of that left-hand shot that he drops Charlie Brenneman with, and right away we're like, damn, who's this kid, right? And ever since then, look what he's done in the UFC, the people he's beaten, the people he's lost to, the ups, the downs, the win streaks, getting back on the horse. There was a time in 2017 to 2018 where people thought that Beneil was on his way out. I mean, think about it. Edson Barboza with that flying knee, that was one we didn't think he was going to come back the same from. The Alexander Hernandez KO loss, we were like, yeah, it might be over for Benny. Then he puts up the biggest win streak of his UFC career, makes it to that #1 contender fight with Charles do Bronx Oliveira. And let me tell y'all something about that Charles do Bronx Oliveira fight, because I see people making this post about how, Beneil didn't even have a second of success in that fight, and that's complete bullshit. Beneil was actually got on top of Charles do Bronx Oliveira. He was landing some vicious ground and pound. Credit to Charles scrambling back up to his feet. He caught Benny with this big head kick, and I just don't think that Benny recovered. Not to mention Charles Oliveira, how slick he is to getting the back, and you're not just going to take a guy like Beneil Dariush's back. So Beneil, instead of getting his back taken, he goes to his back on the mat, and Charles do Bronx just had this very pinpoint ground and pound that was able to get the job done. So to me, I don't view it as, oh, Benny's on his way out, or Benny's this, Benny's that. Dude, Benny is a real warrior. Like I said, y'all, I'm going to repeat myself. Do not let the nice guy persona fool you. Like, yeah, he really is a nice guy. I'm not calling him fake. What I'm trying to say is that Beneil is a killer. Okay, like make no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Beneil Dariush is a killer. My favorite weapons of him from that southpaw stance. I mean, people always talk about his jujitsu, which of course it's unbelievable, but dude, that left body kick to the liver, because he's a southpaw. So when he's fighting orthodox fighters, it's going to go right to that liver. Pull up his fight with James Vick. All y'all remember is that knockout. But let's talk about those body kicks. You just the crack of those body kicks. You pull up his fight with Michael Johnson. All everyone talks about is, oh, it was this big robbery. But they don't know what they were watching. Beneil Dariush putting on a jab clinic, and every time he went to the legs, because in that fight it was southpaw versus southpaw, so he was able to attack the legs. And when Beneil kicks, man, I mean, you can hear the echo of those shots. And I see someone saying Dariush has no chin. It's not that he's got no chin, but he's definitely been stopped his fair share of times. But let's just say this as well. Arman Tsarukyan, he's not impervious to that either. He got knocked out in his second pro fight in 30 seconds, and then his most recent fight, he did the chicken dance in round 2. But let me say this about that fight against Joaquim Silva, excuse me. I thought that was a fantastic performance by Arman. I know Arman's getting a lot of shit because he was a minus 1,100 favorite in that spot, which I understand. Joaquim took it on very short notice, and their places in the rankings are drastically different. So you just expect Arman to just come out there and just steamroll him real quick. But that's not Arman's style. Arman grinds you down. Arman gets it to the point where you're like, man, what do I got to do to get this guy off me? Like, oh my God, like the physicality of a guy like Arman. And when I talk about the physicality, I don't want that to sound like I'm discrediting his unbelievable scrambling and wrestling ability. And let's not sleep on his striking either. Here's the thing with his striking. Offensively speaking, I mean, he's got the fundamentals down. I like how he strings his punches to his kicks. He's a very hard kicker. Actually, he's got a very sneaky high kick. But the thing about it is that's offensively speaking. Defensively speaking, I think that Arman is a little bit vulnerable, not just mentioning that time that he got knocked out in his second pro fight, but most recently against Joaquim Silva. But credit to Silva. Joaquim Silva is a very hard hitter. And Arman, after that fight, I don't know if y'all saw the footage of him going backstage, walking up to Joaquim. He's like, dude, no one's ever hit me that hard. Like, he's like, you're the hardest hitter I've ever faced. And like, I don't hold it against someone. When you get caught on the temple, on the chin by an extremely heavy hitter, I'm more impressed that he just did a chicken dance and that he wasn't knocked out cold, So, I mean, look at what happened when Jared Gordon took those same shots against Joaquim Silva. So I think that Dixon said Arman got that Grant Dawson type striking. I disagree, man. I think his striking is a lot more technical than Grant Dawson. And I think Grant Dawson's one of those guys that he might throw, but he's going to close his eyes. He's very uncomfortable in the pocket. Whereas Arman, he's good everywhere. It's just taking it is where I kind of have, not that big a concern. When I say stuff like that, it sounds like I'm making him out to be chinny or whatever. It's just we've seen him get wobbled and we've seen him get knocked out. So he's not impervious to being hurt, but offensively speaking, striking, he can give it for sure. And you already know about his wrestling. To make your UFC debut against Islam Makhachev and to have the kind of scrambles he did with him, I mean, hey, Arman, you are serious, man. And now I feel like he's at the point where he's paying his dues, and it's about that time where it's like, hey, man, so here's my thing, right? Because he's only 27 years old, so you'd think, I mean, shit, if you want to wait till you're 30 to make that title run, that works too. But with the resume he has at this point and the experience and the vast improvements, I mean, he gets past Benny and he's right there. So the question is, how do you see the fight going? And the early scrambles are going to be amazing. I mean, you watch that fight between both guys in Gamrot in that first round, Beneil versus Gamrot and Arman versus Gamrot. Oh my God, that first round, the scrambles they had are just second to none. The only thing is that, so Arman kind of slowed down in that Gamrot fight, but I also think, he was 25, 26 at the time. Gamrot is serious. And we'll talk about how Beneil, did his thing against Gamrot, but styles make fights. It's a completely different matchup here. And I think, firstly, a lot of people thought that Arman won that Gamrot fight, but that's neither here nor there. To me, I don't care about who won or who lost. I care about, is that the kind of performance where He's going to learn from it. He's going to come back better. That was his first 5-round fight. Beneil's actually never been in a 5-round fight before. And is Arman just going to make those adjustments going forward and do what he needs to do? Learn from it, come back, and now make that title run. So here with Beneil, man, Beneil is so dangerous. Beneil is so well-rounded. Beneil is so experienced that it's tough. And when you talk about it from a betting perspective, what you got to understand is that, I mean, Arman was minus 175 at one point. Arman was minus 200 at one point. So you got in on that minus 175. You got in on that minus 200. You did your job. But minus 310, I mean, what the fuck am I supposed to do with minus 310? You understand what I'm saying? So I'm all good on that. I think it's actually a dog or pass situation at plus 260. I'm just not really trying to have money against Arman Tsarukyan. I mean, I can word it a certain way and say things like, well, it's not a fade on Arman, it's a bet on Beneil, which I completely understand. But I'm just not. I just really think that Arman's trajectory is towards the top. And with Beneil, not that he's on his way out. I truly believe Beneil strings 2-3 wins together. He can get a title shot too. And he is good enough to win this fight. But what I do think here, despite the fact that Beneil's never lost a decision before, he's also never fought 5 rounds before. And not that that's, you know, I mean, I've seen him in 3rd rounds looking fresh. I've also seen him in 3rd rounds not looking fresh. But the bottom line, what I'm trying to say is, I think that Arman is going to push the kind of pace to where once this hits that 3rd, 4th, 5th round, that's when I see him starting to maybe establish a bit more top control, if the fight even gets there. Because oftentimes when you think that these guys are going to neutralize each other, have crazy scrambles, and it's going to be this dogfight, you think it gets extended. But sometimes, man, I mean, with these two guys, you've seen both of them knocked out before. You've seen both of them wobble before. Maybe they want to test their stand-up, and someone could hit the deck here. I'm not writing off that possibility either. I just don't know what to expect. You run this fight 10 times, it's a different outcome every time. Not saying that, you know, it's a 50-50 fight, because I don't think it's a 50-50 fight. But what I'm trying to say is that I can see an early knockout for either guy. You know, in this fight, I could also see this being a 5-round war. I could see the early going kind of being competitive, and then someone pulls away down the stretch. So there's just a lot of different ways I can see it going. But bottom line, I'm going with Arman. And it's not because I think Beneil's on his way out. I don't think Beneil's on his way out. I just, when I watch Arman, I'm just like, man, he's so good. But I say the same things about Beneil too. It's just, I think Arman a little bit younger, a little bit fresher. And just that physicality that it brings to the table. I think his ground game is good enough to you know, kind of neutralize Benny in terms of, look, these first few scrambles are going to be intense. Let's just leave it at that. But once we get past that a little bit, that's when I think that maybe Arman can possibly settle in to top control and maybe grind out some of the later rounds. But this fight could realistically play out in a variety of ways. But I'm still favoring Arman Tsarukyan to get it done. So next up, co-main event of the evening, we got Bobby King Green. He's 31-14, welcoming Jalin Turner, who's 13-7 on short notice to save the co-main event. So much respect, Jalin Turner. Much respect, Bobby Green, because I know there's guys like Wonder Boy who won't take a short notice replacement. And if Jalin Turner misses weight, Bobby Green isn't going to even bat an eye. And remember, people were telling me, oh, but, you know, Wonder Boy's old now. So, you know, no, like, how could you hold it against him that he ruined one of the best fights on the card? Well, guys, it was Miesha that ruined it by missing weight. Let me tell you something right now. Jalin took this fight on like a week notice. Jalin missed weight his last fight when he had full notice. If Jalin misses weight here, you know what Bobby's going to say? I'll see you tomorrow inside the UFC octagon. He's going to say, give me that 20 to 30%, and I'm going to whoop your ass. You know what I'm saying? Whereas when you pull the shit that Wonder Boy pulled, okay, you don't want to fight Michelle Pereira, who only missed weight by 3 pounds? All right, here's Shaft Cat. Here's the guy you've ducked for the last 2 years. Here's the guy you publicly said you wanted no part of. Here's Shaft Cat. Whereas Bobby Green, you don't got to worry about that. And let's talk about age, because everyone was like, well, Wonder Boy, he's up there in age. Bro, Bobby Green's like 37, so it's a different mentality, and the kind of mentality Bobby Green has, he's not going to give a fuck if Jalin missed weight. The only way this fight would get pulled off for Jalin missing weight is athletic commission not letting it happen, you know, the doctors, something like that. But Bobby Green, I mean, I just heard this interview with Bobby Green. He went on Rampage's podcast, and he was talking about how he's down to spar Rampage. And it wasn't, you know, some tongue-in-cheek, haha. No, he was like, yo, let's put on the gloves right now. He was fucking telling Rampage, like, dude, like, you ain't gonna be able to touch me. And Rampage is like 250 pounds. And I'm not saying that, Bobby wouldn't have gotten hurt, but I'm just telling you, those are the kind of balls Bobby has. Bobby will fight anyone, anytime, any place. So if you think that if Jalin misses weight and Bobby's going to pull a Wonder Boy, yeah, fucking forget about it. You know what I'm saying, man? Bobby's going to show up unless the doctors or the state athletic commission don't let it happen. But as far as how they match up, here's my concern for Bobby in this spot. So Jalin Turner, you guys know what he brings to the table. He's obviously a very destructive striker, but what I think is important to talk about is his physical attributes. This is a guy who is 6'3" in the lightweight division. You don't often see that. He's got the 77-inch reach, and he knows how to fight long. So this early going, Bobby Green, while he's starting to figure out his style, figure out Jalin's style, kind of get his timing, kind of get his reads a little bit, he's gonna have to be very careful. Bobby does like to fight with his hands down. He might duck into something. You got to be worried about those knees up the middle, those long range strikes. You think you're safe, fighting against someone that's your size, but that same distance where you're safe with them, you're not going to necessarily be safe against someone like Jalin with that long ass reach, who knows how to use that long ass reach. But here's my issue with Jalin. I think Jalin has come a long way. If you look at Jalin's past fights, like I'm talking before UFC, like you would have been like, yeah, this dude ain't never going to be a top 10 guy. And for him to make it to where he's made it to in the UFC, put on the kind of performances he's put on, hey, Jalin Turner, you're the fucking man. And for being one of the biggest guys at 55s and to take this fight on a week and a half short notice, hey, dog, like that's some gangster shit right there. So I got nothing but respect for both these guys, but I think that Bobby Green is habitually underrated. I mean, last time we easily cashed on him at plus 390 against that fraud Grant Dawson, and now he's fighting another young guy. Granted, this young guy is not a fraud, and this young guy is very dangerous. So what I think is that the early going, man, Jalin Turner, man, that first round and a half, boy, he's hell on wheels, and there's a chance he can knock Bobby out. But if Bobby can survive this early going, not saying that Bobby can't get an early knockout, he's gotten a few of those in his time, but I'm just saying Jalin is hell on wheels while he's fresh. But the thing is, with those weight cuts, with that size, and with the kind of pace that Jalin Turner pushes, Jalen's a guy that's going to slow down as fights progress. And that's not a matter of him not running his miles. For him to make, for a 6'3" man with a 77-inch reach, with his physique, to make 155 pounds, you bet your fucking ass he's running his miles. Even if he misses weight, this guy's taking his shit seriously. It's just he's fucking huge. This guy could fight at 70s. You understand what I'm saying? So early going is going to be a sweat. As you can tell, I'm leaning towards Bobby Green here. Just the fact that, first of all, the experience difference, it's just you got to factor in the danger factor for Jalin. I mean, you can't deny it. Like, if I'm betting Bobby Green here, I know there's a distinct possibility that Jalin Turner might knock him out, but I also know there's a distinct possibility that if this fight goes over, Jalin Turner has never won a decision in the UFC. Every single time the fight's gone past the second round, Jalin Turner has lost. And let me just make sure he didn't have any third round finishes in there that I'm fucking up. No, he didn't. Every time a fight's gone past the second round, he's lost. But the thing, man, is I've noticed this from, like, people can talk about his last two fights where he lost decisions. I don't need to talk about those fights. Let's talk about the Jamie Malarkey fight. Round 2 in that Jamie Malarkey fight. Like, y'all don't remember because Jalin Turner beat the living shit out of Jamie Malarkey, but Jamie Malarkey had a moment in that fight. Jamie Malarkey had Jalin Turner doing a little wobble. Not quite a chicken dance like Arman did against Joaquim Silva, but he definitely got wobbled. His legs definitely kind of went a little bit. I think Bobby Green is live for a knockout here as well. But I think the longer this fight goes, once Bobby starts to make his reads, starts to find that distance, because that's the big thing about this fight, is whose distance is going to be played at. Because again, you got a short guy in Bobby Green. I say short, he's not that short. He's 5'10", but I'm talking about, against a 6'3" guy. He is the short guy here. So it's at what range are they going to be playing at? But especially early on, bro, because early on, that's where I'm worried about Bobby potentially hitting the deck. But I really think if you get me to that 7-minute mark, I think Bobby can take over, assuming that no one's been finished up until that point. So I like Bobby here, man. I think Bobby can put up the output. I think Bobby can mix in the wrestling as well. Bobby can grapple too. Don't sleep on his grappling. And Jalin Turner, while he's gotten a lot better, you cannot shoot a sloppy shot on a guy like Jalin Turner with those long ass arms. He can snatch up any kind of those long man chokes, ninja choke, guillotine, anaconda, darce, whatever the case may be. Bobby's very hard to submit, but just saying, with those long man arms, it is what it is. So yeah, I mean, here's my thing. I'm going to be sweating bullets early on, but Bobby, get me to that 7.5 mark, unless you've knocked him out before that. And I think we take over, man, especially with that. Like, I'm not saying Jalen's going to miss. Maybe Jalin misses weight. Maybe he doesn't miss weight, whatever. That's neither here nor there. But what I think is that the weight cut itself, make it or not make it, is going to drain him as the fight progresses, because even in fights that he's had full training camps for, he slows down as fights progress. Could it be because Jalin Turner, he goes hard, or could it be because the man is so goddamn big for that weight class, and those weight cuts take their toll? You only got 24 hours to recover. I'm going with the UFC's hitman here, man. I'm going with Bobby King Green to get another upset here against Jalin Turner. And I think that if Bobby Green can string together a few huge wins like he's doing right now, Tony Ferguson and then Grant Dawson, and then if you can come out here and put on an impressive performance against Jalin Turner, like, I really think that Bobby Green could be like a Nate Diaz / Jorge Masvidal type guy, because he is one of those guys. Like, he doesn't have a perfect record, but he consistently puts on the kind of fights the fans want to see. He's got an awesome personality, and he's an OG and a gangster. So we want to see guys like that do well. It's just about, when's he going to get his break? Like, when's he going to have his Ben Askren versus Jorge Masvidal viral moment where, it seems like an overnight success, but the guy's been paying his dues for how long now? I mean, I remember cashing a plus 250 on Bobby Green against Josh Thompson back in the day. So, before Dana White said be Joe Pyfer, he said be Bobby Green. So I want to see Bobby Green come in here, play it smart for the early going, find his range, and then start to put the volume on Jalin Turner, possibly mix in some takedowns. And yeah, I'm going Bobby Green in this one. Now, featured bout in the bantamweight division, we got Rob Font, or as we like to say in Brazil, Hobby Font. She's 20-7, welcoming Deiveson Figueiredo to the who's 21-3-1 to the bantamweight division. It says 21-3-1, but we all know that draw against Moreno was bullshit. We all know Deiveson won that fight. So as far as I'm concerned, he's 22-3. Currently, they got it. Rob Font minus 142. The comeback on Deiveson Figueiredo is plus 122. So I took Deiveson here at plus 125. I see a lot of people concerned about him moving up to bantamweight. Actually, I've been wanting him to move up to bantamweight. Man, those weight cuts for him to make 25s, oh my God, they took everything out of him. And when you watch those 4 fights against Moreno, every fight was so drastically different. I felt like Deiveson clearly won the first and third fights, and then the second and fourth fights, I mean, he got the shit beaten out of him the second and fourth fights. And I just think that those weight cuts, and he was training in Brazil, and you know what that means when he's training in Brazil, that after practice, you can go to Auntie's picanha Brazilian barbecue. You know what I mean? Whereas now for this fight, just like in the third fight against Moreno, he got out of his comfort zone. He's training at Fight Ready. He doesn't have the yes men around him. When he's done training, he can't just go to the Brazilian churrascaria. Like, he's locked in now. And when Deiveson's locked in, I think he's one of the scariest guys on the planet. What I'm worried about here is, you guys know what I'm worried about. I'm worried about that goddamn jab of Rob Font. Rob Font has an elite jab. And if Deiveson's just staying at the end of that jab, then I'm probably going to lose this bet. But I think that one big thing is that Rob Font could be getting off on volume, and similar to what we saw in the Pedro Munoz fight and the Jose Aldo fight and the Chito Vera fight, Rob Font does not take shots as well as he used to. Now, he's ultra durable and he's ultra tough. He's never truly been knocked out, but his face is falling apart in fights. He's doing more and more chicken dances. He's getting dropped more. Even in that Adrian Yanez fight, where we all remember that incredible knockout. And it was an incredible knockout, but Adrian Yanez was rocking him too. And I truly think that, yes, Deiveson is a flyweight, but you got to understand, usually these guys, when they move up in weight class, first few fights, they have a lot of success. I'm not talking about fucking Luke Rockhold, who already had no chin and moved up to light heavyweight and just got blown out. Like, I'm not talking about some bullshit like that. I'm talking about, remember when Dustin Poirier moved up from 45 to 55 and went on a huge fucking run? Remember when Kelvin Gastelum first moved up to middleweight and like he had an 100% knockdown rate. Like back then, he dropped every single guy he fought for the first like 5-6 guys he fought up that weight class. Look at Alex Pereira moving up, winning a belt. So I'm just saying, like, these guys that move up, like first few fights, they usually do good, assuming that they're not damaged goods already, like a Luke Rockhold. And I don't think that Deiveson Figueiredo's damaged goods yet. Now, that's where I could be wrong. But my thing is, all his fights, like against Moreno, it was like literally every fight was so different how he performed. And I think it's due to those weight cuts just being too much. And now that he's out of fight ready, he was already a massive flyweight. I think he might be a shorter bantamweight, but he my boy's cocked. Don't make no mistake about it. His power will translate at bantamweight. And I think that basically the way I expect this fight to go, as someone who bet Deiveson Figueiredo in the spot at plus 125, is that I think Rob Font's probably going to be getting off on volume, but Davison's going to have those big moments. It might be 3 jabs in a row by Font, but then that one shot that Deiveson cracks him with, then you see that big reaction. You see that big wobble. You see, maybe a drop. I could see like the Pedro Munoz fight when Rob Font was lighting up Pedro Munoz. Pedro hits him with one shot. Immediately, Rob Font shoots a takedown on the guy with one of the nastiest guillotines in the division. The fight with John Lineker. John Lineker had Rob Font pulling guard. So what I'm just saying is, Rob Font does not like getting hit hard by these Brazilians. Look at the Aldo fight. Look at the Cheeto fight. He's not Brazilian. He's Ecuadorian. But I'm saying by my my South American brothers, should we say it like that? You know what I mean? But Dan said, I feel late on this one, but you think there's still value at Figgy at plus 110? I think there's value at dog money, just assuming that he's not just completely washed or something like that. I mean, but this is the risk I'm willing to take, because you think about it, Adrian Yanez was like minus 160, but what the fuck has Adrian Yanez accomplished? A couple good wins in the UFC. We respect him. We like his style, but Davison's like a fucking real ass championship caliber fighter. And he was at flyweight, which is like the most technical division in the UFC. And now he's moving up. It's going to be a big relief for him. And I respect Font, but like I've just only been talking about, Rob Font getting wobbled in multiple fights, right? Like I named you a bunch of examples, but what about that last fight against Sandhagen where you got taken down against a non-wrestler? Like, y'all want to act like Sandhagen's a wrestler now? like stop, Sandhagen, he has been rounding out his game. You got to give him credit, but like that was a pathetic fucking fight, dude. And Rob Font couldn't get up from bottom against an injured opponent. Now, I'm not saying that Deiveson is all of a sudden going to be D1 Deiveson. That's not what he fights, but a takedown here and there won't hurt, especially if this guy can't get up. So it's just about, as long as Davison's not damaged goods, I think he's live here, especially with the power, especially whether it's knocking him down, hurting him, whether it's rocking him and making him shoot a sloppy shot into that guillotine, or whether it's just landing the harder shots throughout the bout. It's just, I know as a Deiveson bettor, if he's just on the wrong end of that jab for the duration of the fight, then I know I'm going to lose that bet. Like I'm not fucking delusional here, but I think that we're going to be landing the harder shots. We're going to be making the biggest impact. We're going to get those wobbles, those chicken dances, possibly those drops, and maybe even a finish along the way. So I'm going Deiveson Dice Dugea Figueiredo here to win his bantamweight debut in the UFC. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Sean Brady, he's 15-1, taking on Kelvin Gastelum, who's 18-8. Currently, they got it. Sean Brady minus 120. The comeback on Kelvin Gastelum is plus 100. This is a very interesting fight because I got a lot to say about both guys. So, firstly, let me just start off on this point so I don't forget it. So, a lot of people haven't mentioned, what is Kelvin Gastelum's history against people with Sean Brady's kind of style and body type? They got Sean Brady listed at 5'10". Dude, Sean Brady is no 5'10". Sean Brady is like 5'8", maybe even 5'7", but he's short, stocky, cocked, and word on the street, he's one of the strongest guys that people tie up with in the gym. And that apparently his squeeze on his chokes is second to none. So you gotta be worried about that. And then I also like the fact that like early on in fights, like Sean Brady's a physical force. Like even that first round against Bilal, like we just remember Bilal absolutely breaking him and giving him a way out and destroying him and being the first guy in a long time that Bilal's finished via strikes. But what we don't remember is that first round, Brady was bringing it, right? And a similar theme, that first round against Chiesa, Brady was bringing it. And it's just that when I bet on Brady against Chiesa and that third round comes through and Chiesa is looking like K1 Chiesa, and we all know Chiesa has got no stand-up whatsoever, and Chiesa is the one putting it on him. I got certain questions. I'm not ready to make this claim yet, but what I am ready to say is I have suspicions about Sean Brady kind of having a bit of that bully mentality. When he's the hammer, oh my God, like, oh, this guy's so strong. This guy's got such a squeeze. But if you can get past his initial storm, and he seems to break as fights progress. He seems so here's my thing. I think, okay, so when I hear people talk about Brady, like you hear Joe Pfeiffer talk about Brady, you hear Paul Felder talk about Brady, they're always like, man, I've never felt anyone so strong and this and that. And kind of what that gives me the impression of is that he's kind of got that bully mentality. And we talk about that often where, amazing hammer, not the best nail. And if you can kind of stand up to the bully a bit, that's when he starts to break. So that's one thing. And then another thing with Kelvin, I was talking about his history fighting these body types, this kind of 5'8" to 5'10", short, stocky, kind of, strong grappler, but that also can, throw some hands and stuff. And like, let's literally look at his history with these guys. Brian Melanson was, y'all probably don't remember him, but y'all old school fans know exactly who the fuck I'm talking about. Brian Melanson was his first, 5'8", short, stocky, strong grappler, this and that. And Kelvin easily got him out of there in the first round. Next one was Rick Story, exact same body type as Sean Brady. And Kelvin Gastelum overcame some tough spots to go out there and win the decision. Next one, Jake Ellenberger, exact same body type as Sean Brady. And guys, no, I am not comparing the washed up Jake Ellenberger to the current day form of Brady. What I'm saying is that fight was in 2014. So that was a prime Ellenberger. Kelvin gets him out of there in round one. Tyron Woodley, same kind of body type as Sean Brady. They went to a split decision. Johnny Hendricks, same kind of, body type as Sean Brady, and former D1 wrestler. And guys, this is back in 2016. Kelvin got that one. Tim Kennedy, a little bit bigger because he's a middleweight, but same kind of little short, stockier for middleweight, strong grappler. Kelvin finished him in round three. The Jacare fight, elite black belt. And I'm talking about in 2018. Kelvin overcame some really bad spots to come back to win that fight. The Jack Hermanson fight, well, Jack Hermanson's also like 6'1", 6'2", and I thought Kelvin looked good early, but he got caught in a heel hook. Okay, maybe that could happen again. So besides, those are all like the kind of like short, stocky, like prototype Sean Brady guys he's fought. So he's got a pretty good history with this style. The only thing is that obviously Kelvin moving down to 70 for the first time in a long time. But I also have had questions about where Kelvin's at in his career, because right now he's kind of at a hit or miss stage. And I've had success betting him in the past, and I've had failures betting him in the past, whether when he came through for me against, Tim Kennedy, Nate Marquardt, all these guys, when he didn't come through again for me against Neil Magny. But again, Magny's 6'3", Brady's like 5'8", it says 5'10". He ain't no 5'10". Let me tell you that right now. I stood next to him. He was shorter than me. So this dude ain't no 5'10". Yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is that if Kelvin doesn't have an off night, I really think this is a good matchup for him. The only thing is that we still don't know enough about Brady because he hasn't really fought anybody. But take that for what it's worth, because again, he may have not fought anybody today, but that doesn't mean tomorrow that he can't go out there and beat somebody. But what I'm trying to say is what I've gathered from him, like take the Bilal fight away, but like when Chiesa is looking like K1 Chiesa in round 3, that is very sketchy. It's just we don't know what to expect from Kelvin. He's very hit or miss as well, but when he's on his game, like I told you, when he first got to middleweight, like he literally knocked down like his first 5 or 6 opponents. Like the guy's got hands, especially from that southpaw stance, punches and bunches, and he can grapple too. It's just sometimes you'll have these performances where he looks a little unmotivated. So yeah, this is a tough one for me. I'm leaning towards Kelvin because when what I've seen at their best, Kelvin has impressed me more. The only thing is that if he lays an egg here, which he's done in fights in the past, Sean Brady has that is a very strong guy. I'm sure he's learned a lot from that loss. We just got to see exactly is Sean Brady that bully where like I was talking about where great hammer, not a great nail. Like, is that the case? Does he have a cardio issue, or were these just growing pains to get him to where he needs to be? So this is a fantastic fight that's going to let us know a lot. I'm gonna lean towards Kelvin if it's the Kelvin we all know and love. It's just how many times have I been burnt expecting that guy to show up, right? So yeah, it's tough, but I'm gonna go Kelvin. Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Clay, the Carpenter, Guida. He's 38-23. God damn, it's a lot of fucking fights. And his opponent, Joaquim Neto BJJ Silva, who's 12-4. Currently, they got it. Joaquim Silva minus 300. The comeback on Clay Guida is plus 250. So, man, shout out to y'all that got in. What was it? There was like a minus 185, minus 200 on Neto BJJ. I think y'all did your job, and now minus 300. I don't think there's any value left. Because here's the thing about Guida. Guida's one of these guys that, firstly, he's a legend in the sport. I mean, when you look at his resume, I mean, beat Pettis, beat Rafael Dos Anjos, beat Nate Diaz, beat BJ Penn, beat the ghost of BJ Penn, but still beat BJ Penn. So the guys have been around a long time. He's beat the who's who. And from time to time, he'll surprise you. I definitely think he's on his way out. No questions asked. It's just that he's got a very grinding and stifling style where he gets on top of guys that tend not to get back up. So that's the only thing I'd be worried about, if he can hump Joaquim for 2 of the 3 rounds. But here's the thing with Joaquim. It might not be the fastest guy, but the guy cracks extremely hard. Point in case, Arman Tsarukyan said that Joaquim Silva is the hardest hitter he's ever fought, and he's got world-class jiu-jitsu. Now, I know people like to joke about how he doesn't win any fights by submission in the UFC. You need to look into it a little bit deeper than that, because you watch his fight against Jared Gordon, and all everyone ever remembers is the knockout, which is a fucking beautiful knockout. But I think it was that late second round, was it? One of these rounds where he had that knee bar from the back, the Saluev stretch, on Jared Gordon, and that was a very high level attempt. You watch his grappling match he had with Neil Magny, who's way bigger than him, and he choked him out with a guillotine. So Joaquim Silva can grapple his ass off. He's just one of these guys that chooses to bang, kind of like a new school George Gurgel, where he's got the world-class jiu-jitsu, but let him bang, bro. You know what I'm saying? So the way I see it going on, I can see a knockout for Joaquim Silva. I can see him hurting Guida, and then Guida shoots into a guillotine. The only thing I'm worried about, especially at a price like this, is that Guida is able to just get on top of him and the life alert, help, I've fallen and can't get up. That's the only thing I'm worried about. But besides that, I think Joaquim Silva's got the goods to finish this fight. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Punahele Soriano. He's 9-3, taking on Dustin Stoltzfus, who's 14-5. Currently, they got it Punahele Soriano minus 300. The comeback on Dustin Stoltzfus is plus 250. So, it's an interesting fight because Puna, when he came to the UFC, we had high hopes for him, man. I was calling him Hawaiian Vitor. He's from that southpaw stance. He's got nasty knockout power. There are questions concerning, not that his gas tank sucks, because the guy is in shape. When you see him and he's got those fucking traps and he looks like a goddamn, what does he look like? Is it like a dinosaur or some shit? Like a fucking, yeah, he looks like ridiculous. The Punosaurus Rex, you know what I mean? But I think it's one of these situations with Puna where, I think sometimes we forget that, he's still figuring things out, man. He's only had 12 pro fights. He's been kind of growing up in front of our eyes. He came into the UFC at only 6-0, so he's got to figure some things out. And also for a guy who's got an all-American wrestling background, now granted, I think it might have been D3, which, not to discredit D3, if you're a D3 wrestler, you're a bad motherfucker. I'll tell you that right now. If y'all got any questions about that, come to my gym. I'll match you up with one of our D3 wrestlers. And if you can get past that, then I'll match you up with our D1 guy. No, but what I'm trying to say is that, just because You know, I hear people making fun of someone. Oh, you're D2, you're D3. Oh, you're JUCO. Like, dude, those guys are badasses too. Like, make no mistake about it. It's just we don't really see that wrestling from Puna. We like to see him do the Hawaiian stand and bang, the Hawaiian Vitor. My thing with Dustin Stoltzfus is I don't think he's a bad fighter at all, man. I actually think that black belt in jiu-jitsu, decently well-rounded. It's just that I think that where he lacks is in the mental department. I don't think that, you know, I don't really know the guy, but I question his killer instinct, him really going for it. I question his belief in himself in bad positions. I'm sure like in the gym, he's awesome. It's just, I know so many guys like that, like in the gym, they're like the best guy and they can really teach you all these techniques and they're like a wealth of knowledge. But when it comes down to actually performing under the lights, they just don't put it together. They freak out when they get into bad spots and all these things. So, you know, it's almost like a self-sabotage type ordeal. Like, which is interesting because someone else in his weight class named Cody Brundage has the same thing. They should have done Dustin Stoltzfus versus Cody Brundage to you know what I'm saying, to guarantee that one of them goes home. But I know what they're doing. They're trying to get Puna to send Dustin home, and they're trying to get the Zach Reese guy to send Cody Brundage home. So I get it. But bottom line, I think Puna is going to be a bit too aggressive for Dustin Stoltzfus. It's just, you know, he's still young in his career. He doesn't even have 10 pro wins under his belt yet. He's still figuring things out. I would not lay the chalk on him, but I do think that he should come out here and rough this guy up. So I'm gonna go Punahele Soriano. Y'all do me a huge favor. Smash that like button for me. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed. When this is over, leave me a comment. If you feel so inclined, please share. And then also, big thank you to all you guys that showed me big love for episode 500 last week. Man, I really felt the love. I really appreciated it. And I can't thank you enough. So much love. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got the former women's bantamweight champion, Miesha Tate. She's 19-9, taking on Julia Avila, who's 9-2. Currently, they got it. Julia Avila minus 144. The comeback on Miesha Tate's plus 124. So here's what I do know, and here's what I don't know. What I do know is that Miesha Tate is completely washed up. Firstly, shout out to Miesha Tate, because even though I'm not a fan of Miesha Tate at all, like I actually don't like Miesha Tate. I don't know her personally, but every time I hear her talk, there's like a certain kind of arrogance that I don't like. And don't get me wrong, people call me arrogant and cocky all the time too, but it's different because like I'm actually like a lot of it's tongue in cheek, joking around, being sarcastic, and I do try to be there for people. Not that Miesha's not. Now we're getting into a whole tangent, but like no, but just every time I hear her talk, there's like a certain arrogance that I just don't like about her. I don't know. Just you got the fighters you like and the fighters you don't like, but who gives a fuck? At the end of the day, despite me not liking Miesha Tate, she's a pioneer of the sport, man. She was one of the first women to really make that push, and you know, around in the early Ronda Rousey days and the Strike Force days, and she was doing her thing. And what she was known for was like, man, y'all watch that Julie Kedzie fight. How long ago was that shit, bro? The Julie Kedzie fight was 2012. I remember watching that fight in 2012 in Strikeforce. Julie Kedzie drops her with a head kick. You think the fight's, you know, about to be over, and Miesha Tate comes back and finishes that fight in round 3. You know what I'm saying? So hey, one thing about Miesha, she's got a lot of toughness, but she does not like getting hit. She's super one-dimensional. She's just got the old wrestling style for like the primitive stages of women's MMA. And then with Avila, before her pregnancy thing, like, man, I thought that she was a bit of a prospect in the division. I thought that I liked her aggression. I like that she goes for it. I like that she's overcome ups and downs. And I feel like she's starting to put things together. It's just that, you know, coming off the pregnancy, from what we're on the street is girls coming off pregnancy, that first fight back, they don't always look their best. But at the same time, so what we do know is we know Miesha Tate's completely washed up. What we don't know is how's Julia Avila going to look coming off the pregnancy, the layoff, the this, that. So if I'm guaranteed the same aggressive, mean, goes for it, wants to beat the hell out of you, Julia Avila, then I'm confident. If You know, she's softened up a little bit. I'm not even talking about physique, because I know she actually blew up to like 200 something pounds. But I saw a recent picture. She looks like she's in shape, man. I mean, listen, they go through a lot of changes in their body. So much respect to all the ladies out there. You know what I'm saying? All love. But it just comes down to, has the mindset change of Julia Avila. If she's still that mean, you know, that mean bitch trying to, and I say bitch not about her character, but about fighting wise, you know what I'm saying? Like, if she's still that mean bitch trying to go out there and trying to make you pay, not just trying to, you know, Miesha Tate kind of just grinds it out, makes it boring. And Gina and Miesha Tate got outclassed by like a 40-year-old Lauren Murphy not too long ago. Don't forget about that either. And her one win back. I love me some Marion Renault, but y'all know Marion Renault was like 45, 46 at the time. So you can't put any stock into that. So we know Miesha Tate is done. We just don't know what to expect from Avila. That's what makes it interesting. But if you give me the Avila that I knew was this aggressive prospect that really goes for it, then I think she should break Miesha Tate. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got Cody Brundage. He's 9-5, welcoming Zach Reese, who's 6-0 to the UFC. Currently, they got it. Zach Reese minus 230. The comeback on Cody Brundage is plus 195. So on one hand, I understand it's minus 230 to fade Cody Brundage. So, you know, let's get that out the way. Like, long term, you're going to win fading this guy. But the thing is, we don't know shit about Zach Reese except that all his fights have ended inside the first round, which is not his fault. Hey, it's not your fault that none of these guys can go past the first round with you. The other thing is, he's 6'4" with a 77-inch reach. He's going to be significantly bigger than this guy. It's just, I'm worried about, you know, a guy who's never even, he's only been to the 4-minute mark in a fight once, man. All his fights, for the most part, half of his fights have ended in under a minute, you know, which there's nothing wrong with. I love it. I love the destruction. I love the finishes. And it's not your fault that these guys can't get past that with you. It's just that at the UFC level, these guys aren't just going to get finished in the first round, especially as you move up the ranks. Cody Brundage might get finished in the first round. You know, Cody Brundage, his issue is not his skills. Like, I can wrestle. The guy's got a good guillotine. The guy has shown power before in his hands. The issue is Cody's up here mentally. Cody Brundage is a mental midget. And, you know, now he's putting his social medias on private. And I just don't think that mentally he's got what it takes in this game. He's a good hammer. He's not a good nail. As soon as any kind of adversity presents itself, he checks out the fight every single time. And you know, guys like this all the time. Like I said, I bet Cody Brundage in the gym is like a great training partner, and he is a skilled guy. He's not a, like again, I don't think his skills are bad. I just think we talk about it all the time. The mental part of the game is just as big as the physical and the techniques, and you don't have that mental part of the game on lock. Like, you remember when Frankie Edgar was doing his title reign? What was Frankie Edgar known for in his title reign? You drop him like 3-4 times, and then he comes back and drowns you. And you're not going to drop Cody Brundage 3 or 4 times and expect him to come back in the fight. You drop him one time, he's covering up and looking to go home. Check, please, you know? So it's one of those things, man, where I just don't know anything about Zach Reese except that he's big, he's physical, he gets a lot of first-round finishes. So the funny thing about it is that if Cody doesn't have this, you know, doesn't beat himself mentally before the fight begins, he actually might have a chance here to grind this guy out. But since I can't trust Cody Brundage and I'm not in the business of picking Cody Brundage to win UFC fights, I'll go with Zach Reese here, but I'm not going to lay the price on him because I don't know shit about him. Show me that you can handle Cody Brundage the way you're supposed to handle Cody Brundage. Because there's been times where, like, a young prospect like Trey Sean wasn't quite ready for Cody Brundage. He got caught. Is Zach Reese kind of like, in terms of the lower level experience, is he kind of just not quite seasoned enough, right? Because there still are levels to this shit. But I just think that Cody is so mentally defeated that, you know, guys that are not in the UFC can finish him straight up. Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Joe Solecki, who's 13-3, taking on Drakkar Klose, who's 13-2-1 currently. They got it. Drakkar minus 120. The comeback on Joe Solecki is plus 100. This is a tough one to call because, you know, no pun intended, but every Drakkar Klose fight, for the most part, is so fucking close. His fights come down to the wire. So usually in those cases, you want to take the dog. Unless like you're a dude that really doesn't belong, like a Devin Powell or a or a Brandon Jenkins. And no disrespect, Brandon Jenkins outside the UFC puts on a lot of exciting fights, but in the UFC just doesn't translate. Like Drakkar will run through guys like that, but anyone that's UFC caliber, it's usually a super competitive, close fight where you're just kind of able to just kind of grind out, you know, minutes and stuff like that, and like, you know, get his calf kick game going, pin you up against the fence, mixing a takedown or two, and just kind of hustle. And with Joe Solecki, he's a high level black belt. His striking has been getting a little bit better. I know that he's a guy that kind of closes his eyes when he strikes. He's been chinned more than once. Nicholas Mata got him. Now, credit to Mata. I know Mata's not UFC caliber, but Mata cracks. One thing about Mata is Mata can crack. And that was a vicious ass knockout. I don't know if y'all ever saw it. Man, that was a brutal ass knockout. When Mata knocked out Solecki. But man, Solecki's been doing his thing lately. It's just man, I didn't really think he won that Alex De Silva fight, to be honest with you. But the Jared Gordon fight, I was surprised was a split. I thought that Jared clearly won that fight. And then so it's one of those things. Joseph Solecki, like I said, he's got very good jiu-jitsu. His stand-up has been getting better offensively. It's just defensively, I got worries about his chin. I got worried about him fatiguing down the stretch in fights. So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure on this one. I'm going to lean Drakkar just to have another typical Drakkar performance where it's just a super close fight. People betting Solecki are going to think they got robbed. If it goes to Solecki, people that think that bet Drakkar are going to think they got robbed. This is one of those fights. I mean, watch it not be one of those fights, but going into it before the fact, I think it's one of those fights. I'm going to lean Drakkar, split decision. Yes. Yeah, I mean, but, you know, in a split decision type fight, you should take the dog. But, yeah, I just don't have the best read, so it's a pass for me. Next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Steve Garcia. He's 14-5, taking on Melquizael Costa, who's 20-6. Currently, they got it. Melquizael Costa minus 245. The comeback on Steve Garcia is plus 210. I got to be honest, man. Well, I'm always honest, but I wanted to preface what I'm saying, what I'm about to say with, you know, I want to be honest. I was never that impressed with Mel Costa until his last fight, man. Like I thought coming into the UFC, when I watched his regional fights, I felt like, look, he's got good experience, he's got good techniques, but I felt like kind of lacks a little bit of IQ in the finishing fights department. I've seen multiple occasions where he's had guys on the ropes and just wasn't able to close the show. Granted, nothing wrong with losing a decision, but I thought, like, I laid minus 300 straight on Thiago Moises in that cash because I thought that Mel Costa was going to be 2 fights in and out. And I was wrong. That last fight against Lingo, man, he looked incredible against Lingo. Now, granted, Lingo is, you know, kind of a basic meat and potatoes fighter, kind of, you know, a lower ranked guy, but still for Mel to put on that kind of 3-round performance, I thought that was a big step in the right direction, and it definitely impressed me. But here with his opponent, Steve Garcia, man, Steve Garcia comes to fight, bro. Steve Garcia is mean. He goes for it. The guy has landed 5 knockdowns in his UFC and Contender Series history, but he's also been on the wrong end of 4 knockdowns. So what that means, he's a killer be killed type guy. I think that if this turns into a brawl, I think that favors Steve, but I think that if Mel can kind of keep this on the outside, use those long range strikes, and I say that, but you know what's funny about that is that Steve Garcia is the taller guy. Steve Garcia has the 4-inch reach advantage, but I say that, and the dynamic about Steve being the bigger guy and Mel not is that Mel's the one that likes to fight long. Steve's the one that likes to kind of brawl. So it should be exciting. It just depends about what range this fight takes place in. In the pocket, I favor Steve. Out at distance, I favor Mel. So yeah, this is a tough one for me to call because you know, like going into Mel's last fight, I really thought that, you know, it wasn't going to pan out in the UFC, but he looked so damn good in that fight. But I also don't want to overreact to just one performance, which was a very favorable matchup nonetheless. I'm going to lean Mel, but I'm not interested at this price at all. Next up in the light heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Ihor Poteria. He's 20-4, welcoming Rodolfo Bellato, who's 11-2 to the UFC. Currently, they got it. Rodolfo Bellato, minus 400. The comeback on Ihor Poteria is plus 330. So Bellato, listen, man, Bellato is a Brazilian banger. Bellato is the kind of guy, he's going to throw heavy kicks. He's going to throw heavy bombs. And I mean, the fight hits the mat. He knows what he's doing there too, whether it's leg locks, rear naked chokes, whatever the case may be. His only losses are to Vitor Petrino, both times via knockout. The second time, a lot closer than the first. Yeah, the guy's big, the guy's physical, 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. And they call him the Trator, which means tractor, for a reason, because this guy he's a truck, man. And then with Ihor, my thing with Ihor is I think Ihor, wow, he's 27. Why did I think he was like 23? So Ihor comes into the UFC with like a super padded record, and I'm talking about padded record where like he was getting knocked out by guys who were like 2-2, and then listen to this. When Ihor was 14-2, he fought a 0-0 guy. When Ihor was 15-2, he fought an 0-3 guy. Like, that's disgusting, bro. But you know, so you look at the Contender Series fight, he came in as a big dog and he kind of broke the guy down a little bit. It was kind of like a poor man's Nikita Krylov type fight, type performance. And then he fought Nikolai Negumariano, and Nikolai really broke him down the stretch, really put it on him, fatigued him, and just teed off. The Mauricio Shogun Hua fight, like, I get it, Shogun, that was his retirement fight. He's on his way, but still, to fight Mauricio Shogun in Brazil, that's still a high pressure fight. You grew up watching this guy. You're going to Brazil, enemy territory. Like, I get it. You don't put too much stock into it, but give him credit for it, because that was a big fight and he could have shot the bed and he didn't. And against Olberg, I know that he was a big underdog in that fight, so it's no big deal. But it's like when you're seeing a young guy come out there with 2 knee braces and how easily he's willing to go home, it's just, it doesn't incite that much confidence. But my issue here is that Bellato is minus 400. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? So to me, it's a pass, man. I think Ihor needs to figure out a couple things. I think he just needs a little bit more maturity, needs to figure out these injuries, especially for such a young guy. So I'm not that high on him right now. I'm going to go Bellato, but I'm not interested at this price, of course. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a match between Wellington Turman, he's 18-7, taking on Jared Nitrain Gooden, who is 22-9. Currently, they got it Wellington Turman minus 190. The comeback on Jared Gooden is plus 165. This is this should be a fun fight, man. Y'all know, just disclaimer, Jared, he's from Atlanta. I have a very good relationship with him. He's been to my house multiple times. I've been to his house. We've been to friends' weddings together. We've trained together. Like, Jared's my dog. And if y'all ever come to Atlanta and you meet Jared, Jared is the funniest fucking guy. Jared is hilarious, man. He's goofy. He's funny. He'll have you rolling on your ass laughing. And he's just a cool dude. And like, man, he gets some of the hottest girls out of all my friends. And my friends all do well. And Jared, like, man, like, he gets some of the hottest girls, dude. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about this fight. So Wellington Turman, I think he's another guy that's got skills everywhere. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I think his hands have been getting better. I think he's got a lot more confidence now. My issue is we're going to talk about both their training situations. Both their training situations are red flags. Wellington Turman. So to everyone, I hear them talking about, oh, he's working with Alex and Glover, so he's just going to be making these leaps. And I'm sure he's going to be making leaps, but the way I view it is, oh shit, so he's Alex Pereira's punching bag. You know what I'm saying? Like that. For a dude who already had a suspect chin, I cannot imagine those sparring sessions with I cannot imagine what those sparring sessions are like with Alex Pereira and Wellington Turman, and with Glover too. I bet they beat the living shit out of Wellington Turman, man. So people saying it's a good thing he trains there. I think knowledge-wise it's a good thing, but I would not be surprised if that durability was coming down big time, because you don't just spar with Alex Pereira for years and and think that your chin rating is going to go up. So that I'm worried about that. And he does seem to gas out a bit in fights. You know, back in the day when he fought Carl Roberson, who was nowhere near. Carl Roberson was known for being the guy that would get insta tapped, and Carl Roberson survived the back takes against Wellington Turman. That was kind of interesting. But Turman's come a long way since then. And with Jared, here's my thing with Jared. I'm just gonna be brutally honest, man. I'm always brutally honest, but sometimes I'll like maybe keep certain things to myself because, you know, Jared's a friend of mine, bro. Like Jared's, like I said, he's been in my house multiple times. I can call him right now if I wanted to. I'm not going to because he's fucking fight week. I'm not going to bother him, but I'm just saying, like, you know, there's when you have certain concerns about your buddies, you know, those things are better left behind closed doors, and certain things I won't say. But what I will say is this: I told y'all I was worried about Wellington Turman's training situation because I think that Alex Pereira is probably beating the living shit out of him. I'm worried about Jared's training situation too, and I'll tell you why. It's not that Jared's not training hard. Jared's training his ass off. That's not the concern here. It's just that when you watch, Jared's had a very long career, right? Like, let's pull up. He's 22-9. So, bro, Jared's had 31 pro fights and he's not even 30 yet. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so even though he's a young guy, he's not even 30 yet. He's a very seasoned guy. He's got a lot of miles on him. He's been fighting for a very, very long time. But back to the thing I'm worried about with Jared, is that he's got like two different fighting styles, and he like kind of changed his style recently. Like, if you watch what I think is his best performance, in LFA, I believe it was. Let me pull up real quick. Yeah, LFA 59 against Stephen Newell. Like, dude, I thought that was the best performance of Jared's career because he did the things we like. He put up the kind of output we wanted, the over 100 significant strikes. If he wanted to go in there and mix in takedowns, he was able to do that. He just looked like a well-rounded guy that can go 3 rounds hard, tough as nails, and then cocked like no one's fucking business. Super physical. Someone said he's worried about him pulling a stunt like Impa. Look, Impa is the 205-pound champion in PFL, bro. And not only that, Jared, for 31 pro fights before the age of 30, he's only been knocked out twice, and it was against the 205-pound PFL champ and against this dude Bruno Silva, who like has like the Johnny Walker like 6'6" physique. So like Jared is one of the most ultra durable guys. Like that front kick to the face Randy landed on him, I'm surprised he didn't go down by that. So the thing with Jared is that you'll watch his fight against Stephen Newell in LFA, and he looks amazing there. You watch he's had 3 great UFC fights. The Juban fight, I thought was fight of the night. The Nicolas Stoltze knockout was great. The Randy Brown fight was an awesome fight. But then he's had 2 performances that were really bad looks, the Abubakar fight and the Carlston Harris fight. I'll give him a pass for the Carlston Harris fight because you got to remember, he took that fight on Wednesday of fight week. Okay. So, you know, basically, when you take a fight on Wednesday of fight week, dude, you know, what do you expect, especially when you're already a huge guy for the weight class? But let me tell y'all something about this. Okay, so another thing I wanted to say about how Jared's been changing his style, because y'all have noticed recently he's been doing like this hands down boxing shit, which is not how he used to fight at all. And I'm personally more of a fan of his older style. But who the fuck am I to tell a grown ass man like that what to do? You know, you're the fighter, not me, bro. And yeah, I love you like a brother, but I'm not gonna tell a grown ass man what to do. I might give input if I'm asked for it. Certain guys ask me for input, but he doesn't. So I don't got shit to say about it to him, but I'll say it here, man. Jared's been a brown belt since I've known him, and I've known him like 10 years, right? So what that tells me is he's not training in the gi anymore, but he might have, a lot of people have a philosophy, well, it's MMA. I don't need to be training in the gi. But what I'm saying is that, you know, a dude that's been a brown belt 5 to 10 plus years, I'm thinking like, bro, you got to be up there again to your black belt soon. But on the opposite side of that, you look at Carlston Harris, and he's known for these absolutely insane front chokes, anacondas, darces, and he did it against Jeremiah Wells, who's like a real black belt. And Jared took the fight on fucking Wednesday of fight week, completely out of shape. And not that he was out of shape, like it's that 2 weeks prior, he already had a fight. And you know, when fighters have their fight, they're going to eat everything but the kitchen sink right after the fight. And then you get a call a week later, hey, come back to the UFC, it's like, oh my God, bro. And even in Jared's completely fatigued state, Carlston Harris wasn't able to lock in those nasty front chokes, Darces, anacondas, like he was against, a real black belt like Jeremiah Wells. So even though I'm giving Jared a little bit of shit, for he's been a brown belt 10 years, and I question that he's maybe just training his boxing a little bit too much. The fact that he was able to survive those chokes against Carlston Harris was like, especially when he was completely out of shape, completely gassed after round one. You can't knock the heart of Gooden. Gooden is going to fight to the bitter end unless you put him out. So the guy's a dog. So as far as this matchup is concerned, I haven't spoken to Jared in a few months, but I assume that, bro, loser of this fight is going home. That's just the bottom line. Like, doesn't matter if it's Wellington or if it's Jared. Whoever loses this fight, like, that's it, bro. That's it. Good night. You're going back to the regionals. Winner of this fight, you might get a new contract, because Jared did them a favor taking that last fight on short notice. Jared, please make weight. Like, man, because my thing with Jared and the weight thing, it's like, I know he can make it. It's just a matter of being disciplined. But the last time I can give him a pass for, you took that fight on Wednesday of fight week, so no big deal. But if you miss weight here, man, I can't defend you on that, bro. So please make weight, because like what I'm trying to say is, even if he knocks out Wellington Turman in the first round, but if he misses weight here, they're just gonna part ways with him anyways. So you like, the only way that someone can lose this fight and stay on the roster is if this is like World War III. This is just a knock him out, drag him out fight where like you can't justify cutting either guy. But when Jared's at the best of his game, I think that the volume's there. I think the power's there. I also think that he's one of these guys that is so damn tough that even if he's down on the cards, he can find late finishes like he did in a lot of his regional fights. Wellington does tend to slow down in fights, especially with that big weight cut. It's just, man, I need Jared to make weight here, bro. I want him to keep his job. So this is a really good test for both guys. Obviously I'm pulling for Jared. That's my dog. I want to see him do well, but I'm also not delusional at where this fight could go wrong. I'm not delusional about the concerns I have about both of their training situations. Again, they're training hard. That's not I'm not saying they're fucking training in LA Fitness or in their garage or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying with Wellington, I'm worried about the fact that Pereira is literally taking years off the dude's chin. And with Jared, I'm worried about that he's mainly just put a sole focus into just boxing. So I need to see that old Jared Gooden style for me to be confident here. But of course I'm going to pick him. That's my dog. I want to see him do well. Nothing against Wellington Turman, but let's see what happens. I really like, dude, you've had a full camp for this one. Like, it's time to come out here and show out, my boy. So hopefully he does. Now, last but not least, and before we talk about this last fight, firstly, thank y'all so much for being here. I really appreciate y'all. The support y'all showed me for 500 episodes and just everything along the years. It's been a pleasure, man. So please hit the like button for me. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. When this is over, leave me that comment. And if you feel so inclined to share. If you want to put your sponsors on me, let me know, because I'm looking for sponsors right now. Now, last but not least, in the flyweight division, we got the former LFA champion, Jamie Lynn Horth. She's 6-0, representing Canada, taking on Veronica Macedo Hardy, who's 7-4-1, representing Venezuela. Currently, they got it. Oh, damn. God damn. I thought, wasn't it like a pick'em the other day? Jesus Christ. Yo, listen to this shit, dude. It's -175, Jamie Lynn Horth. The comeback on Veronica's +150. I saw motherfuckers betting Veronica Hardy at like -105, bro. -110, -105. And now she's +150. Like, do not keep doing that if you want to be on the right side of the coin. You know what I'm saying? But this is a tough one, because it's like, firstly, let's talk bias. I like Veronica. She's a super cool chick, bro. Like, when I went to PFL, because I did like a 3-week stint in ATL, Dan Hardy works for PFL. So while he was working, like, Veronica was hanging out backstage. We hung out 2 of the weeks, and bro, she was cool as hell, man. She's a real cool chick. Had some great conversations, and I just want to see her do well, just, because of how cool she was. But breaking it down objectively, I think that Veronica's got skills. I think she's very fast. I think she's got an array of kicks. I think that her jiu-jitsu is sneaky too. The only issues I've had with her along the way is that the physicality isn't quite there. She's quite a bit on the smaller side, which credit to her. She was fighting big chicks. Like that last fight against the all filler, no killer Miller. Like, dude, like she was like landing head kicks on like a chick way bigger than her. So like I think the skills are there. It's just sometimes the physicality isn't, and that's where I'm worried here with Horth, because Horth is the more physical girl. Horth can pin her up against the fence. Horth's got a variety of finishes, whether it's with kicks, with chokes. And Horth is on the way up. You know, she's had less than 10 pro fights. She's hungry to represent Canada. But at this point, Veronica is the more experienced fighter. It's just that Veronica can be physically outgunned in a lot of these fights. So that's what I'm worried about. So I don't know. It's like I want Veronica to win because she was, you know, she's a cool chick, man. Like, what can I say? Not that Jamie isn't. I've just never met Jamie, but I've met Veronica a couple times, hung out with her a couple times, and I really enjoy her company. She's cool. But the thing is, man, none of that shit matters. I hope she doesn't listen to this because I'm kind of leaning towards Jamie Lynn Horth just with the physicality. But maybe Veronica's turning things around. Maybe Veronica finally, I don't know, found the coach she needed or the confidence she needed or whatever the case may be. Maybe who the fuck knows? So I lean Horth a little bit, but I'll be rooting for Veronica. I'd love to see her get it done. All right, I'm going to talk about the fight to watch, the fighter to watch, and then I'm down to answer any questions y'all have for a couple more minutes. So y'all leave me the questions now. I don't feel like scrolling all the way up because then I like miss stuff. So just leave me the questions under here. But the fight to watch, I mean, okay. So besides Beneil and Arman, besides Jalin and Bobby Green, and besides Rob Font and Deiveson Figueiredo, it's got to be Sean Brady versus Kelvin Gastelum. Like, how long have we been hearing about? Gardner said Horth is 33 with 6 flat fights. Red flag there. I mean, I guess I think it's more of a red flag if she shows some holes in her game. You know, she beat Lupita Godinez twice in amateurs, but we talking about amateurs and we talking about practice now. You know what I'm saying? So who knows what kind of stock to put in it? I don't fucking know, bro. I don't know. But the fight to watch, I think, is Sean Brady versus Kelvin Gastelum. There's so many questions. How good is Sean Brady actually? Like, I know he's strong. I know he's got a squeeze. And I know he's on his way up. But I also like that third round against Chiesa, that second round against Bilal. Shit's gotten kind of sketchy when people have stood up to the bully with Kelvin Gastelum. Like, I've been hearing about this move to 170 for how many goddamn years now? And Kelvin's had some incredible performances. He's also had some hit and miss. I mean, he's had, like I said, he's had some fantastic performances and he's had some kind of, like the Darren Till fight was an awful fight. But then like the Jared Cannonier fight, he went, he only lost 3-2 against Jared Cannonier. So like when he's on, he's super talented. Let's see what he looks like on Friday, at 170 pounds. Hopefully, God willing, right? Let's see what he looks like and let's take him from there. And with Brady, like this will be a huge feather in his cap to get this win. So this fight lets us know a lot, man. And yeah, for that reason, Sean Brady versus Kelvin Gastelum is my fight to watch. My fighter to watch is Deiveson Figueiredo, man. Listen, you are one of the most destructive flyweight champions in the history of the sport, but those weight cuts were becoming too much. You were in your comfort zone in Brazil. You were eating Auntie's picanha Brazilian barbecue every night. You were missing weight in championship fights. It was time to go up, bro. And now you got a guy who's been dropped like 5 times in the last 4 fights, taken down like 8 times in the last 4 fights, and does the chicken dance every fight. Just don't stay behind the end of that jab. I think you got a good chance, and I think Deiveson can make a statement here as long as he's not over the hill overnight. So let's see. He's my fighter to watch. All right, now I'm down to answer the fan questions. Firstly, thank you all very much for being here. Dan Goldstein, your thoughts on Ian Gary situation? My thought on the Ian Gary situation is I don't have enough info, but what I do know, because I've heard so many refuting claims about this and that or the other, but what I don't like for a guy that claims to be as mentally strong as Ian Gary, who I'm a fan of, who I bet on like almost every fight, like, bro, why did you put your social media on private? Like, you're a celebrity, you're an athlete, you're a public figure. Like, only like mentally weak dudes like put their shit on private, bro. Just don't even check it. You're like, so that was a big red flag, man. He's getting cooked badly. And it's one thing to get cooked badly and not let it affect you and laugh it off, like, haha, whatever. But when you're putting your social medias on private and you're trying to reach the heights that this guy is, like talking about the McGregor heights, you think McGregor would ever put his shit on private? And yeah, so I just hope he figures it out, because he's a very talented guy. You know what I can do? I can put the link for y'all to join me in here if y'all want to ask me questions face to face. The only thing is, for me to let you in here, you have to show your face. I'm not doing because last time I had a dude who like didn't show his face, and then he showed like a picture of a dick on here. And it's like, bro, like don't even waste my time or the fans' time with that. So I put the link here if anyone wants to come on here, ask me a couple questions. I do better with face-to-face interactions, because sometimes with the text you can't quite decipher the tone at times through text. That's why I'm making that offer. So if anyone wants to join the stream for a second, ask me a question. I'm down to talk to y'all. If not, I'm gonna get out of here. I guess I'll scroll up and see if y'all had any questions for me. But I think I answered most of the questions. You know what I mean? And I appreciate everyone that's in here, man. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with the chat because it's scrolling so fast, so I can't just address everybody and what they're saying. But just know that I'm very grateful for everybody that's in here. All right. Okay. So basically, bro, I truly appreciate y'all. And so, do we have that UFC Shanghai card? I know it's not in Shanghai no more, but is that UFC Shanghai card like? Is that next week or is that the week after? Like, I'm trying to figure out like what the deal is. I know it's at the Apex. Okay, it's on the 9th of. Hold on a second. Let's figure out when the fuck this is. When's that Shanghai card, y'all? Okay, so Shanghai card. Wait. Did I read that right? Saturday, December 9th. Okay. So December 9th. Okay. So that means that, yeah, okay. So we do have a card next week. Yeah, okay. So next week's the Shanghai card. And then after that, we got the pay-per-view card. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. So hey man, appreciate y'all so much. All y'all. Matthew said, who do you like better, Buffer or Joe Martinez? I think they're both amazing. I think Buffer is the OG and he's iconic and like a face of the sport. And I think that Joe Martinez has an unbelievable voice. He was the announcer for the WEC. So I go way back with Joe, and I've always enjoyed watching him, and he'll be the great replacement for Buffer when Buffer finally steps down. But yeah, I got love for both of them. They both bring something different to the table, and I really enjoy them. And that wasn't trying to be a politically correct answer, because I genuinely do think that they're both amazing. Thoughts on Turner Green under 2.5 minus 125? I don't have any thoughts on it. My only thoughts on it's dogger pass. Yeah, I think that's it, man. All right. Appreciate y'all so much. Really, really, truly, sincerely. Hit that like button for me. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks. Follow me on Instagram at Half the Battle Pod. Leave me a comment when this is done, and if you feel so inclined, please share. And then let me know, I don't know, what bets you guys like. If you say, what, you don't like over unders, I do if I feel like the price is right, but I'm not trying to lay chalk on that one. It could I could see it being a 3-round war or an early finish. I'd just rather take the underdog, you know. But yeah, thank y'all, man. Really, really appreciate y'all. Y'all are the best. The support throughout the years. Make sure y'all support all the up and coming guys making videos too. There are a lot of great guys out there doing it. So yeah, man. Thank y'all. Best of luck this weekend. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.